Hello, and welcome to the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast, the podcast redefining women's health, one unfiltered conversation at a time. I'm your host, Jacqueline Rose, and every week I'll sit down with leading women's health experts and real women to share their lived experiences, bust health myths, challenge outdated and uninformed narratives, and explore what's really possible for women. We'll talk about periods, fertility, menopause, hormones, aging, and everything in between. This podcast is for every woman who ever felt confused, dismissed, or left out of the conversation about her own health. It is a space to celebrate women, break the silence, and open up conversations between mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends. Please hit the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode and share this podcast with your daughters, family, and friends. Let's get on with the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast. And today we're going to have a really fascinating conversation. I'm really excited about it because we're going to be talking about something that is not really talked about publicly. There's a lot of shame around this topic, and I'm so excited that we have Jennifer today who's going to guide us through this conversation because she really is the expert in this. So Jennifer, let's dive right in. Tell us who you are, what you do, and sort of a little bit of a sneak peek about what we're going to be talking about today.
Wonderful. Thank you for inviting me in, Jacqueline. I really appreciate this. I'm so excited as well to have this conversation with you. I first and foremost am a nervous system whisperer and venting coach for women that feel secretly angry, emotionally fried, or they are just so tired of pretending that they're fine. Um, we have this stigma around us as women that we have to have an armor and be perfect at all
Yeah.
times and not show emotion. And that's just not the case. So I really lean toward helping women find that space where they can just let go, be themselves, soften into who they truly are, and
Yeah.
just finally unclench.
Yeah. I love the term you call yourself a venting coach. I think it's amazing. Um, so let's sort of start really at the beginning with this concept that a lot of women, what let's call it emotional dysregulation or nervous system dysregulation. There are other words we use like stress, overwhelm, mood swings, angry, a lot of these sort of emotional words. And sometimes they're chalked up to symptoms of maybe perimenopause. Sometimes they're chalked up to symptoms of PMS. Sometimes it's just, mood swings or stress, or I'm juggling so much, or the expectations that there are sort of put on women. And they're sort of, it's always explained away by something. So let's start with sort of how women are coming to you, why women are coming to you, what they're sort of saying, and how you sort of help them navigate this.
That is a wonderful question. And you're so right. We have all these labels that society has put on us, right? From time to time, from being young children, going through school, we could be too quiet or too angry or too passive. We have a label, and that label tends to follow us throughout our adulthood
Yeah.
in anything that we do, because essentially, if you are a coach or you've worked with anyone who is a coach, you'll hear certain phrases that are generic in how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if we come from having to hide who we are or having to be a little bit more boisterous just to get our points across, that will follow us into our adulthood and will be labeled. So a lot of women, interestingly enough, will come to me with one thing in mind, not understanding that underneath all of that is the
Yeah.
real struggle that they're having.
Yeah.
So I really work with women that come to me and they say, I want to work on this one specific thing. It could be finances, it could be self-worth, it could be a number of things that they think they have an issue with at the moment. And then we talk, and my one-on-one clients, they have a prerequisite with me, that they actually go through my 30-day program. And it is truly a self-care 30-day program that builds one day on top of the other, where they clear out the clutter,
Mm-hmm.
the mental, the physical clutter. And
Yeah.
by the end of that 30 days, they're like, that's not what I thought I came here for.
Yeah.
I'm like, now we can get to the real issue at hand.
Yeah. 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 Because often there are things going on that we think it's, I'm angry at someone else, or I'm frustrated at my job, or there's all these other things going on that you think are the reason for your emotional dysregulation.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Most
so that,
definitely.
yeah, so that's fascinating. So I think also there's been a lot of negative connotations to being an emotional woman. Women, like that very classic stereotype, which I think still exists today, of if you're, in those in your 20s and 30s, sort of before perimenopause, and you have a menstrual cycle and you're feeling a little bit more emotional, that those connotations of, oh, she's on her period, or oh, she's being really hormonal. There's a lot of negative language that
Mhm.
is really placed on women who are expressing their emotions that may not be happy, chirpy, everything's fine.
That is so true. I love to call that really kind of, because we hold on to that, right?
Yeah.
We take what people say and we hold on to it, and then we start to question ourselves. And so we hold on to those emotions and we bury them down unless we do have the tools to self-regulate. A lot of times we don't have those tools because we've never been taught those tools. Generations prior to us didn't know these tools,
Yeah.
right? So we can't blame the generation before us because they worked with what they had. They did the best that they could. So now we, as women, especially in that state of perimenopause to menopause or even younger, we have that ability to find those tools that work for us. And not every tool is the same for
Yeah.
every person. So I really feel like I love to call those emotions that we have, they're a closet. We put them and we shove them into a closet. You could call it a junk drawer. You could call it,
Mhm.
another room. I love to call it a closet. Just kind of hide
Excellent.
everything in that closet and it
Yeah.
goes in there and it
Yeah.
builds one on top of the other.
Yeah.
And then we start to have a lot of different emotions because we may put sadness aside in that closet. We may put fear in that closet, but somewhere in holding all of those emotions, we get anger
Yeah.
because we're holding on to so many emotions.
So, do you think that anger is the end emotion, the sort of final straw is anger, or is anger its own emotion also?
I think it's actually both. It's both. And truly depends on the individual situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I find a lot of times, at least 75, if not 85% of the time, anger is the byproduct of the emotions that we've been holding on to.
Yeah. 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 Anger and resentment. Those are the two emotions that are not, that you think are the source, or like, the top level, but
Mm,
really there's all that stuff underneath that has sort of built up to that final anger and resentment. Yeah, I definitely hear that.
yeah.
So how it does this impact women in terms of their ability to function, their physical, emotional, mental health? How are these things sort of showing up for women? How is it impacting them?
Well, that it shows up in so many different ways for different individuals. It could be something like overgiving.
Mm,
People pleasing, that can definitely be a form of holding on to a lot of emotion, of not
mm,
regulating ourselves. Perfectionism. And with perfectionism comes a whole nother level of emotions,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Control, having to have control over everything or at least one thing perfectly.
yeah,
Um, Resentment, like you said, that's a big one. We can begin to show it as resenting our family, our friends, our job, our lives,
yeah,
different avenues of it. A really big one that can truly be so misleading is having emotional shutdown. It's where you just stop,
yeah,
So these emotions don't always show up as what society thinks of us yelling or getting angry. It can be in so many different ways.
right, right. And when you're working with your clients, I think especially high achieving women who are really sort of performing at those highest levels, they have a lot of expectations. They're in the workplace, they've spent years, getting to these levels of responsibility, team leaders, leadership roles. Um, and they sort of are not functioning to the best of their abilities. And again, it may be coming out as overwhelm, burnout, those types of things. Um, what are the things that you think that is missing for them? What is the piece of the puzzle that may be missing for them? How do you help to guide them to sort of unpack all of this?
Well, for a lot of high achieving women, a lot of times they mistake just being tired for being too sensitive, for,
Yeah,
being emotional, being upset. So there's this unspoken anger that creates a lot of chronic stress in these
mm,
women, in their bodies, right?
yeah,
It could be headaches, fatigue, tension, digestive issues. That's a big one. GI,
yeah,
really big. And one of the biggest things to do is name it. Naming it isn't about blame. And again, society tells us that we can't, if we don't see it, we don't have to deal with it. So we
yeah,
have a really hard time saying, we even have a hard time just as women in general saying, I need help. Can you help me? Right. So naming it would equate to blaming it. And I want women to
yeah,
know that that is so not the case.
yeah,
It's misunderstood. It's about actually understanding what needs that they actually are feeling that are unmet for them. And it could be something that just happened, or it could be something that comes up from childhood. We just don't know until we really peel back those layers. And then
yeah.
once it's actually recognized, we can work with it, right? We can understand it instead of trying to just shove it deeper down.
Yeah. Do you find that women at different age demographics are more open? For example, um, just throwing it out there, are perimenopausal, menopausal women more willing or open to engage with this conversation? Are younger women in their 30s ready to have these conversations? Sort of what are you seeing across age demographics and how they relate to sort of this conversation and talking about it?
I honestly, there is a huge stigma for every age group.
Mm,
Um, because if we're looking at it, women that are in their 20s and 30s, they're supposed to have everything together. It's the beginning of
mm,
their life. Everything should be wonderful, but it might not be. And who do we talk to? How do our friends know?
yeah,
Because their lives are supposed to be perfect as well. We get into perimenopause and we're afraid to talk about those issues.
yeah,
How do we talk about it? Who do we bring it up to? It's almost as if though someone needs to go first. And I feel like that's kind of what you and I are both doing in our particular fields, we're going first so that
Yeah.
other women can see that it's okay to have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, just giving women that permission to say, yes, I am angry about this. I feel frustrated about that. This doesn't sit right with me, and I just want to, shout about it or vent about it or get some perspective on it. I think women really have been told for so many years to either put up and shut up, or this is just sort of how it is, deal with it, you've just got to function and do all the things and be all the things and, just get on with it. So it's fascinating sort of to really be that space that allows women to start sharing these thoughts. And again, I want to, I think, maybe put a really big disclaimer, and I'd like you to fill in the blanks here also. This isn't about just like, you know, moaning and complaining about all the things that irritate you.
No, it is not.
Okay,
It is
so I
not.
just want I just want to get that out there. I want you to maybe reframe it a little bit, because women may be listening to us and be thinking, I'm really angry too, and I just want to yell and scream about how angry I am. So can you maybe like
Yes.
put in the context of, because we've been talking about, anger and resentment and all these things, but maybe let's just put it into the context of what your aim is here with your clients, what you really are hoping your clients and women listening understand about what we're talking about here, the context of what we're talking about.
Yes. So what we're really looking at defining is where, at what point in time started this disconnect between our softness and
Mm,
ourselves,
okay.
right? We've been conditioned for so long to equate our worth with our output. And our worth has become more masculine in this world. And we have to do to be supported by anyone,
Yeah.
family, friends, work, you know, and that our softness, that our relaxation, that just our femininity, it can feel unsafe to us.
Yeah.
It can feel stressful on the
Yeah.
nervous system,
Yeah.
because if we're soft, if we're feminine, then we're not productive enough.
Yeah.
And that is just not the case. So
Yeah.
I am looking to rewrite that script, just reverse that. The emotions that we have are valid, but they're emotions. And we
Mhm.
can move through an emotion within 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So as long as we can sit with that one emotion for at least
Yeah.
90 seconds, it's going to move into another emotion.
Yeah.
What we get caught in as a society and as women is to want to hold on to that emotion, is to want to kind of revel in it and have our girlfriends revel in it as well. And I'm looking to kind of rewrite that for
Yeah.
women and say,
Interesting.
okay, let's sit with it. Let's find out what it is. And now
Mhm.
how can we move through it?
Yeah. Do you think there's a societal language of weakness around connecting to your feminine feelings and letting go of that very sort of strong emotions? Because the strong emotions maybe are protective, and that sensitivity and that softness that you're talking about may be perceived as weakness.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. We as women, a lot of times, can't slow down
Yeah.
because the world is going to fall around us,
Yeah.
right? The dishes won't get done, work won't get done, I'll get fired. The children won't get their teeth brushed because nobody else will do it if I don't do it,
Yeah.
right? So that masculine energy is at
Yeah.
the forefront for us
Yeah.
because we as women are afraid to soften.
Mm.
Society will soften with us if we lead the way for them to do that.
Interesting.
But again, we have to lead the way for women, for us to soften so that someone can meet us at our energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does it look like practically? What are you sort of guiding a woman towards? Sort of what would be an ideal management strategy, or sort of how are you supporting her to move from that very high energy, dysregulated state, maybe even using those emotions as a protection, that anger, that high expectations, to this more softer place where maybe she can even achieve more, or not even achieve more, but have more boundaries, achieve in a different way. Sort of what does that journey look like?
So I love to use a lot of practices, NLP, breath work, EFT tapping,
Yeah,
and each person is different, right?
yeah,
What works for one might not work for the other, but I have created a particular system that I think works very well. And then I kind of guide each person, each woman or client through what kind of works for them, because we talk about it on a weekly basis as I'm
yeah.
working with women. You know, there is there is this stigma that we when we work with someone, when we work with a coach or we work with a mentor, that they give us their time and then we wait until they give us their time again to
Yes,
do the
yes,
the work on
yes.
ourselves, right? And that doesn't actually work out very well for anyone involved.
No, no.
So I've gone a little bit further in saying, okay, we have this, we've worked through this right now. Now, this entire time until we work together again one on one, we're going to have accountability.
Mhm.
Accountability is so important
Yeah, yeah,
because, especially in that state of going from a heightened emotion to a regulated emotion, there needs to be someone who is non-judgmental.
yep, 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 yep.
So I love to tell my clients, if there is a moment that you are feeling dysregulated, don't shout out at your partner, don't shout out at work, send me a message. Vent to me.
Yeah,
That's where the venting coach comes in.
yeah.
Vent to me, and then we can now peel it apart and see what truly was upsetting you or what bothered
Mm,
you. And we can work from there. And
yeah,
that's how we build that sustainability to really peel back those layers of being in that
amazing.
masculine energy to feel safe in that
Yeah.
feminine energy, because it doesn't happen overnight. It is
No,
consistency over perfection.
yeah. And it's a real, as you said, like a real rewiring of how, of some, passed down in genetics, in our Western society, of how women need to behave. I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
going to say how men need to behave, but not even sort of comparing and contrasting between men and women, but just the women's narrative about what we need to do, how we need to behave, how we need to show up, the language that we need to be using, and there's so many, and now even worse with social media, where there's so many expectations of how is it that we should be showing up, and then breaking that all apart so that you tap into something different.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
I love how you said that, because one of the first steps is to just pause with compassion.
yeah,
We can pause with compassion for others, for our children, for our pets, for family members. But we have a really hard time pausing with compassion for ourselves.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
that is truly one of the first steps, because our nervous system gets addicted to the stress hormone,
yeah,
and it takes a little bit of time, right,
yeah,
to dysregulate that. It so it doesn't feel familiar with softness. It can even feel really scary
Yes.
to actually relax, to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. If you've never lived in that space, then it would feel very foreign and very
Yes,
unfamiliar.
most definitely. And it's your nervous system is the healing of your nervous system is foundational. It is key to regulating your life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's not about like the bubble baths or spa days. We can do
yeah.
those, but when we come back to reality, back into our own situations.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that up because I think that a lot of women do feel that, every 3 months they need to go and have their spa day, or we're going on vacation, or they need to have their girls' weekend away. And they do that and they go away and they do all these things and then they come back and everything is exactly like it was before. Nothing changed. And you sort of
Right.
needed that release to sort of recharge your batteries so that you could come straight back in and get thrown all the, crap right into your face again. And nothing has really changed, despite the fact that you were desperately waiting and hoping for that girls' weekend away or something, and nothing really happened.
Yes. Yes, because, you know, I remember seeing a sign one time on a billboard that was like, you shouldn't need a vacation from your vacation.
Yes, 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 yes.
That is so true. And that applies to our daily lives.
Yeah,
Our day-to-day lives shouldn't need a vacation.
yeah,
That should be an additional bonus,
yeah. Not the
But it
great escape to recharge your batteries. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You should
yeah,
be
yeah,
recharging them on a regular basis
yeah.
in your own environment.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that also goes to the thing that we talk a lot about now in a more modern conversation around women's health is that listening to your body and listening to the messages your body is sending you, feeling really connected to what's going on. And I think when you're in that dysregulated state, you can't listen at all to what, you're dysregulated emotionally and you're also disconnected emotionally and physically.
Yes, because when you're dysregulated, when you're in an emotional state or a heightened state, the blood leaves your brain. It goes to your extremities so that you can be in fight or flight mode, whichever the whichever fear is coming up for you, whatever the fear is. So if we regulate our systems,
Yeah.
the blood rushes back to the brain and we can think clearly, we can be creative.
Yeah.
You know, I love to guide women into like just starting very small, right? Micro moments of things,
Yeah.
noticing your breath, just breathing,
Yeah.
placing one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, and feeling your body move as you breathe will
Yeah.
bring you back to that present moment.
Yeah.
Notice the tension that your body is holding in your shoulders, your throat, your belly,
Yeah.
or even just noticing your gut response in real time.
Yeah.
If something has triggered you, where am I feeling that? Why am I feeling that?
Yeah. Really,
Just
really
pause.
important. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge you. And I'm
Okay.
sure you've heard this plenty. And I want to give space to, I'm sure, a lot of women who are listening to us who are multitasking, juggling, especially those perimenopausal women, even in late perimenopause, where you may still have probably kids at home, kids who haven't yet left, going off to college. You've still, you may still have kids around, you may still be dealing with a lot of work responsibilities, aging parents. It's just a lot of balls that you are juggling. That is just the reality, which
Mhm.
itself creates a lot of stress and tension, a lot of resentment, a lot of, all the things we're talking about. And someone listening to us may say, look, everything you're saying is really great. And yeah, I get it in theory, but my life is way too busy. Like the reality of my life is just, as so many women are, you know, I'm dealing with a lot. That is just the reality for many, many women. So, what would be the entry point for these women to sort of realize that this is not serving them, that all that negative emotions, dysregulation, all those negative feelings are actually possibly a result of this lifestyle that is being created? But what sort of a gateway in for them to sort of take a step back and say, okay, let me find the space to breathe, listen to my body, pay attention, feel, how's it feeling in my body? Because they're like just laughing at us, thinking, yeah, right, I'm just going to go and get another coffee and get on with my day.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Because, as soon as you bring up, just stop and breathe, that just creates anxiety for
Yes.
some women, right? What do you mean breathe? I breathe every day.
Yeah.
But being intentional about that breath.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's in those micro moments. It's building the awareness without judgment, stopping and just looking. What are you doing 100% perfect? Out of all of those things that you are juggling, what are you giving 100% to?
Yeah.
Not one. So that means that you're not giving 100% to anything. Nothing that you're doing is perfect. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But what if you stepped back and you gave actual detailed attention to each one of those things?
Yeah.
Maybe they wouldn't take as
Or,
long.
or said, you know what? Like, I'm going to drop. I've got 10 things on my to-do list. Let me maybe focus on 5 and do them properly, which I know seems like mind blowing for so many women.
It really does. Because we've been taught again in society that
Yeah.
when we multitask, we can get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
That is true. But science has proven that when we multitask, we are not actually giving attention
Yeah.
to what we're doing.
We're not doing
So
any of those things well.
yeah. So multitasking does nothing for us. It makes our jobs much harder as
Yeah.
women, as professionals, as moms, as partners, as
Yeah.
parents, as children. It makes things so much harder for us. And life already, being a human already, is hard enough. Let's not challenge it.
Yeah.
Let's step back. If we do one thing at a time really well, then it won't take as long to do the next or the
Yeah.
next or the next, right? When we stop and use tools like breath work, like EFT tapping, like NLP practices, that gives us time back. Why? Because our nervous system becomes regulated and we can focus more clearly, more creatively on the task at hand.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can move forward to the next task much faster, much easier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
listening is really, really important.
Yeah. Amazing. Um, and for those women who feel that they're stressed, and I think there's an element here of we sometimes use stress and busyness as a badge of honor
Mhm.
as women. But women who feel that their stress is justified, that they do have a very stressful life, or they do have reasons to feel dysregulated, whether it be, I don't know, you have a child with special needs, or you have a really stressful job, or 101 different things, as to reasons why they feel there's a justification for their dysregulated state. Um, how do you sort of relate to that or engage with that?
I think that's really funny because we do wear stress as a badge of honor.
Yeah,
We truly
yeah,
do.
yeah,
And I would say that that stress is justified, right? All of it is justified. If you're feeling it, it's justified.
yeah,
But what if you didn't allow that stress to be who you were, right? What if you
yeah,
just could start with a bare minimum, right? The bare minimum nervous system care, like the very bottom, just taking 2 breaths, taking 60 seconds to just shake it out. Shake your hands, shake your feet, just shake it out. Or even just tap on some meridian points in your body. And if you don't know what those are, you can Google it. It's easy everywhere, right? And just repeating to yourself, I'm safe. I'm safe.
Yeah.
I'm safe. You can do it anywhere. You can look crazy doing it in the car.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing about nervous system regulation. It doesn't take hours upon hours to do. It truly can take 60 seconds.
Yeah.
As long as you are present and committed to it.
Yeah. And I think that I'm hoping women are hearing and getting from this conversation that that calm, sensitive, connected state actually is a much better place for us to live than in that highly dysregulated, angry, stressed out, very strong, very vocal, very high energy that actually is not really serving us.
I will caveat that
Yes.
with it is not easy. If
Yes.
you are not used to it, it is not
Yeah.
easy. It takes practice, just like anything. We didn't become stressed out overnight. We didn't wake up and all of a sudden we're stressed.
Yeah.
That stress built up. We just didn't listen to it building.
Yeah.
And now it's screaming at us, stress, stress, stress. And it
Yeah.
shows up in all different ways. So regulating the system and softening isn't going to happen overnight either.
Yeah.
It takes consistency, it takes practice, and we're not going to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, is not having this idea that if I do this one thing, this is going to fix all my problems. I'm never going to
Yeah.
be stressed again. That is not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
We are always a work in progress. And what we do one day may not work the next day. So that's why we have a bunch of tools in our toolboxes, right? So
Yeah.
that when that closet starts to overflow, we can pick a tool up and use it.
Yeah. Is there a piece, as you're talking about that closet overfilling, is there a piece of your work where you actually also unpack not just sort of the re-regulation of the nervous system and moving from a dysregulated regulated state to a regulated state, but is there also an element of, do women need to unpack the reasons for? Do they need to unpack the origin story? Or is that less relevant and it's more the tools to move from one state to the other?
That's a good question, because it really, again, depends on the person, depends on the
Okay.
trauma that they have been packing down. Sometimes it is very important to get to the origin of what is causing XYZ.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's something that really, it's not insignificant to them
Yeah.
or to anyone around them, but it's not something that has to be completely unpacked when we have the tools to regulate. So
Yeah.
it really is a
Yeah.
case by case situation.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking about that closet, I was thinking that, they can sort of put all their emotions in there, close the door, and are they then able to leave it behind? Can they leave it there, or is it always going to be knocking at them to sort of like always being pulled back to that space type of thing? But
Again,
I hear
that
what you've said. Yeah, it's very
yeah,
personal.
it is very personal, and it depends on the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because again, we are all a work in progress. I have
Yeah.
my coaches that I work with to help me regulate my system.
Yeah.
There are moments where I still get really angry and I have to step back. But I also, after doing this for so many years, I also can see the cues a lot faster.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the important tool about everything, is that
Yeah.
you'll have these in your back pocket to use when you need, but you'll start to notice a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. That person said that and it triggered me. Now I can step back instead of just all of a sudden lashing out.
Right. Right. Yes. 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 I hear all of that. Amazing. As we begin to close up our conversation, is there anything that you really want to share? Anything that we haven't touched on? Anything that you want to sort of let women know about in this sort of space that we haven't yet touched on?
Um, let's see. I think I just want to reiterate that consistency is important over perfection, right? It's
Yes.
not about doing more. It's
Yeah.
not about adding to a to-do list. It's really about creating space to feel,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
creating
Yeah.
a safe space to feel.
Yeah. Okay, well, as we come to the end, I ask all my guests the same question. This podcast is called Things I Want My Daughters to Know, and I'm having the conversations that I want them to hear. But what do you feel are things that you want your daughters to know? And it doesn't have to be your biological daughters, it can be your goddaughters, your nieces, the daughters of the next generation. What is the message that you really want to be passing on to them that you want them to know about?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I think I want them to know that they don't have to shrink to be
Yeah,
safe.
yeah.
That's really important. They don't have to smile through pain. They don't have to overgive to be loved.
Mhm.
And they don't have to stay quiet to keep the
Yeah,
peace.
yeah,
Their voice does matter. It is so important. Even if their voice starts to shake, it's so important and it matters. And when they do feel angry, don't be ashamed of it because it's a compass to guide them to where they need to go next and that they never, ever have to carry it all alone. There's
amazing.
always someone there for them.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message. It's not being shared enough. So thank you for that. I think it's very, very powerful. Thank you for the work you're doing in this space. This really is an area that is not talked about. And I'm so happy that you shared your wisdom and your thoughts with us today. So thank you, Jennifer. This has been really, really fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. And Jennifer, where can people find you if they want to reach out, they want to learn more about what you do? Where are you? Where can people get hold of you?
Well, I am all over social media at J Grove Wellness. That's JGROVE and the word wellness all together.
Amazing.
My website is the same, jgrovewellness.com. It has all of my offerings there. I would love anyone
Amazing.
to come share, totally share what their thoughts were from this podcast episode.
Yeah,
I would love
definitely.
to hear.
Yeah. Please, everyone, reach out to Jennifer, reach out to myself. Let us know you've been thinking about this because I know that this is going to trigger a lot of thoughts for women listening to this. Some really important messages here. Again, important to be sharing with our daughters. Let our daughters know that they can use their voice. They have a voice. They don't need to be shy, embarrassed, or feel um, small to use their voice. So thank you for that. It's really, really powerful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I look forward to seeing you again at another episode of the Things I Want My Daughters to Know podcast.